My name is John Miller. I'm 47 years old, born and raised in the Midwest, the son of a factory worker and a school teacher. I grew up in a traditional American home where faith, family, and food were all tied together. Sunday dinners after church were the highlight of the week. That rhythm shaped my childhood. The smell of roast beef after worship, the sound of my father's prayer over the table, the way laughter and gratitude blended in the same room. Back then, I believed faith was simple, almost automatic. You go to church, you pray before meals, and that's enough. Or so I thought. As I grew older, life became busier, heavier, and faith slowly shifted into the background. I kept the habits, church on Sundays, short prayers at night, but inside, I was drifting. Food became my comfort, my escape, my silent confession. When I felt tired, I ate. When I was disappointed, I ate. Even when I celebrated, I ate more. I didn't notice that my relationship with food was quietly becoming an idol. I told myself, God doesn't care what I eat. He cares about my heart. But my body began to carry the truth I was ignoring. High blood pressure. Rising cholesterol. Doctors warning me again and again. And me, shrugging it off. Then came the night that would rewrite everything. A holiday, a feast, a table overflowing. My family and friends laughing, celebrating with fireworks. And me, indulging until I could hardly move. Hours later, in the silence of my recliner, the pain came, sharp, crushing, undeniable. My wife's panicked voice on the phone with 911. My son's wide eyes frozen with fear. My body collapsing. The room spinning. And then, darkness. But death did not feel like I expected. It wasn't just an end. It was a doorway. One moment I was in chaos, the next I was outside of myself, hovering above the scene. No weight, no breath, just awareness. I saw my wife crying over me, paramedics working frantically, voices urgent. Yet I felt calm, almost detached. A strange peace wrapped around me, pulling me toward something greater. And then came the light. Not just brightness, but living light. It carried love, warmth, authority. And in that light, I knew, I was about to face the one who sees not just what I do, but who I truly am. This was not a dream. This was the moment faith stopped being ritual and became reality. The light drew me in, and suddenly I was no longer hovering above the chaos of my living room, but standing in a place that felt outside of time. The air itself seemed alive, vibrating with holiness. Every part of me knew, this was not imagination, not illusion, but reality at its most eternal. And then I saw him. Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, both fire and tenderness, both authority and mercy. The moment my eyes met his, every excuse I had ever made crumbled. He didn't need to ask who I was. He knew me completely. My failures, my pride, my careless life, everything was laid bare before him. Yet instead of condemnation, I felt love, pure, unshakable love. The kind of love that doesn't ignore the truth, but pierces through it. I fell to my knees, broken, weeping without words. My soul was undone. Then he spoke my name. John. Just one word, and I felt the weight of the universe pause. His voice was like thunder, and yet it healed me like a whisper. He said, "The days you are living in are short. My people are not prepared. They think they are ready, but they are blind to the traps laid before them. Even in the smallest things, what they eat, what they choose, what they trust, the enemy works to claim their hearts." As he spoke, visions opened before my eyes. I saw crowds of people lining up for food, not just for survival but in submission. I saw parents choosing the world's provision over God's promise. I saw believers laughing at gluttony, excusing indulgence, and yet unaware that their spirit was growing weaker. And I wept, because I realized I was no different. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder. The touch burned with both fire and comfort. "John, you must return. Tell them food is not just food. In the last days, every choice reveals loyalty, either to me or to the world. Warn them. Even the table they sit at will test their obedience." I trembled. I wanted to argue, "Lord, who will listen to me? I am ordinary, weak, flawed." But his gaze silenced my doubts. It was never about my strength. it was about his message. That moment shifted something deep in me. I understood that my near death was not an accident, not a tragedy, but a commission. I was being sent back, not just to live, but to testify. And friend, if you are hearing this now, it is not by chance. You are meant to hear this warning. Faith is not a ritual, it is obedience. Even the small choices matter. If this message stirred something in your heart, I invite you. Leave a comment below declaring your faith, and subscribe to this channel, not just for more stories, but to walk together under God's protection. As I remained before Jesus, his gaze seemed to open the hidden corners of my soul. And then he stretched out his hand, and visions unfolded before my eyes, not abstract dreams, but living truth. The first vision revealed food I had eaten all my life: processed meats, breads, sweets, seafood, drinks, things I once thought were harmless, even celebratory. Yet in this vision, I did not see delight. I saw chains. Each bite carried a shadow, each indulgence weakened the spirit. The more people consumed, the dimmer their eyes became, the weaker their faith appeared. I wanted to turn away, ashamed of how often I had done the same. But Jesus made me look. His voice broke through my resistance. "John, my people have turned food into comfort, into escape, into an idol. They laugh at gluttony, but they do not see the slow poison at work. In the end times, even what they eat will be a sign of their loyalty, whether they belong to me or to the world." As his words echoed, I saw crowds standing in long lines for food distributed by a global power. At first, it looked like provision. But behind it, I saw control. Some believers refused, their faces pale with hunger yet shining with light. Others gave in, thinking, "Surely food cannot matter." But as they accepted, I saw darkness bind them like a seal. My heart trembled. I realized that the battle was not only about violence or persecution, but about the ordinary, the plate before us, the choice at the table. Faith was not only about sermons or prayers, it was about obedience in the unseen details. Jesus' tone grew solemn. "Tell them, John, the enemy does not always come roaring like a lion. Sometimes he comes disguised in convenience, in sweetness, in what feels harmless. But in those small compromises, the soul grows dull. Warn my people, for the days are near when even bread will be counterfeit, and wine will be deception." I felt pierced. I thought of every careless choice I had made, every time I laughed at my cravings, every moment I told myself it didn't matter. Now I saw the truth. It mattered. Then his words became personal. "John, I spared your life not to burden you, but to entrust you. Return, and tell them that food is not merely survival. It is spiritual ground. And on that ground, they must decide, will they stand with me, or with the world?" I wept, because I knew he was not only speaking to me. He was speaking to every believer who would hear this story. The visions did not stop. Each one struck me deeper than the last. I saw 7 kinds of food revealed, each one something familiar, something ordinary, yet in the light of Christ they appeared with shadows clinging to them. The first was processed meat, the kind I had eaten all my life at family cookouts. It shimmered with grease, but I saw chains wrapped around it. Then came grains, no longer pure, stripped and altered until they became a counterfeit of God's gift. The third vision showed sugar, bright, colorful, but beneath it I saw poison binding the mouths and hearts of those who consumed it. The fourth vision shook me: seafood and creatures of the deep. What I once treated as culture and tradition now appeared unclean, tainted, and heavy with spiritual compromise. Then I saw shelves full of processed and artificial foods, boxes, cans, snacks, things designed for convenience but carrying darkness inside. The sixth vision opened to vineyards and bottles, wine, beer, strong drink. People raised their cups in laughter, but I saw the oil of their spirit fading with every sip. And finally, the seventh vision: food made in laboratories, manufactured and controlled by global powers. It promised safety, abundance, and progress, but what it truly carried was death, separation, and loyalty to the system of the world. As I watched, my soul trembled. These were not just warnings about health. They were messages about obedience. Jesus spoke with sorrow. In the last days, food will not only fill stomachs, it will mark hearts. My children must choose between what the world offers and what I provide. Many will give in because they cannot imagine refusing. But those who trust me will see provision in ways they never expected. I saw parents torn between feeding their children the world's food or trusting God for daily bread. I saw churches divided, some laughing at these warnings, others taking them seriously and preparing. I saw believers mocked because they would not eat what everyone else ate. But I also saw angels carrying baskets of food to the faithful, sustaining them when the world withheld supply. Jesus' words pierced me again. John, tell them I am the bread of life. Tell them I am enough. If they cling to me, they will not starve. But if they cling to the world, they will lose more than their bodies. They will lose their souls. At that moment, I realized this was never about diet or rules. It was about faith, loyalty, and trust in the Lord. When the visions faded, I was left trembling before Jesus. His presence carried both fire and gentleness, both judgment and mercy. My mind raced, but my heart was still. I knew this was not only a message for me, it was a message for all who call themselves believers. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder once more and said, John, return. What you have seen is not for you alone. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Too many are asleep, thinking that small choices don't matter. But in the days ahead, every choice will reveal where their loyalty lies. Speak boldly. Do not soften the truth. Many will laugh, many will ignore, but those with ears to hear will prepare. I wanted to protest, to tell him I was unworthy. But his gaze silenced every doubt. In that light, I understood, it was never about my strength. It was about obedience. And then I was pulled away from the light, back into the chaos of the hospital room. I gasped for breath. Machines beeped around me. Doctors shouted. My wife wept by my side. Against all odds, I had returned. But I was not the same man who had collapsed that night. Since then, my life has changed completely. I no longer treat food as an escape or a comfort. I pray over every meal, asking not only for health but for alignment with God's will. More than that, I no longer live in silence. I share what I saw, sometimes with trembling, sometimes with boldness, but always with the conviction that Jesus is real, that his warnings are true, and that the time is short. My friend, if you are hearing this now, know this, God is not calling you to fear, but to faith. The smallest choices carry eternal weight. The table you sit at is not just about the body, it is about the soul. And the one who is the bread of life is calling you to trust him fully. This is not just my testimony. It is a wake-up call. For me, for you, for all of us. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below declaring your trust in Jesus, and subscribe to this channel, so that together, as a community of faith, we can walk in obedience and be covered under his protection in the days to come.